I never thought I'd be starting over at 45. After 12 years of what I believed was a perfect marriage, everything came crashing down when I discovered my wife's secret. It wasn't just any secret. She was having an affair with her coworker, who was also married. I remember that day clearly. She admitted it after I found some suspicious messages on her phone. I wasn't snooping. She had asked me to check her work schedule while she was in the shower. That's when I saw them. The messages that changed everything. She confessed within minutes of me confronting her. Said it had been going on for about a month with her team leader at work. I packed my bags that night and stayed at my friend Dave's place. She called and texted constantly, begging me to come back, saying she'd end it immediately. But I couldn't. Something inside me had broken. The divorce was surprisingly smooth. She didn't fight me on anything. Not the house, not the cars, not the savings. We split custody of our kids, and I have to admit, she remained a good mother through it all. Our son was 14 and our daughter 12 at the time. They were old enough to understand what happened, but young enough to be deeply hurt by it. For the first year after the divorce, we kept things civil. We focused on the kids, attended their school events separately, and managed to create a routine that worked. I threw myself into work, got promoted, and slowly started rebuilding my life. She seemed to be doing the same, though I heard through mutual friends that her relationship with her coworker ended just months after our divorce. Then came the holiday season, about 18 months after our split. I had started seeing someone, let's call her Rachel. We met at a local community center where I'd started volunteering to keep myself busy. She was divorced too, with a daughter around our kids' age. We took things slow, very slow. For months, we were just friends who occasionally got coffee together. As things started getting more serious with Rachel, I decided to be upfront with my ex-wife. It seemed like the right thing to do, especially since we were thinking about introducing our kids to each other. I texted her one evening, wanting to give her a heads up before the kids found out from someone else. Her reaction caught me off guard. She called immediately, crying. She told me she hadn't dated anyone since our divorce, not one single date. Then she got angry, demanding that I not let Rachel stay overnight when our kids were there, and insisting she wasn't ready to meet her. An hour later, she texted to apologize. Then another text saying she deserved this. It was strange seeing her so affected. Part of me felt guilty, even though I knew I had nothing to feel guilty about. I was moving on with my life, just as she had moved on with hers when she chose to have an affair. Rachel was understanding about the situation. She had been through something similar with her ex-husband and knew the complications that came with blended families. "We'll take it at whatever pace works for everyone," she said. That's one of the things I admired most about her, her patience and emotional intelligence. The whole situation made me realize how much our lives were still connected through our kids and how important it was to handle things delicately. I didn't want any drama, and I definitely didn't want our kids caught in the middle of adult issues. They'd been through enough already. As I tried to navigate this new chapter of my life, I found myself constantly balancing between being a good father, maintaining peace with my ex-wife, and building something meaningful with Rachel. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to do it right this time around. Things got complicated around Mother's Day. I messed up, though not on purpose. I had the kids for the weekend and took them to the newly opened beach on Saturday. We had a great time. It was the first weekend the beaches were open after being closed for weeks due to bad weather. What I didn't know was that my ex-wife had planned to take them to that same beach on Mother's Day. To make matters worse, I had prepared a nice Mother's Day gift basket for Rachel. I thought I'd hidden it well in my closet, but somehow the kids found it. They assumed it was for their mom and told her all about it. When I dropped them off on Sunday morning, my ex-wife first complained about the beach trip, then thanked me for the gift basket she thought was for her. I had to tell her the truth, that I hadn't gotten her anything. The look on her face made me feel terrible. She started crying and left the room. I wanted to explain, to say something to make it better, but what could I say? The reality was, we weren't together anymore, and it was because of her choices. The whole situation got me thinking about the past. During her affair, she never once considered how different her life would become. She had a good job, a beautiful house, financial security. She risked it all for her coworker who, ironically, dumped her shortly after our divorce was finalized. Money became tight for her after the divorce. She had to move to a smaller apartment, and then she lost her job during company layoffs. She recently texted me asking about withdrawing money from her 401k. I told her I couldn't help. I was keeping my retirement funds untouched until I actually retired. Dave, my friend who let me stay with him when everything first happened, helped me put things in perspective. She made her choices, he said. You're not responsible for her happiness anymore. He was right, of course, but it's hard to completely shut off concern for someone who was part of your life for so long. Rachel helped too, in her own way. She never pushed for more involvement than I was ready to give, and she understood when I needed to deal with family matters. She had her own experience with divorce and knew how messy these situations could get. Her daughter, Emma, was starting to become friends with my kids at school, which made things both easier and more complicated. Looking back, I realized how lucky I was during the divorce proceedings. My ex-wife was so caught up in her affair that she barely participated in the mediation sessions. My lawyer was shocked at how easily she agreed to everything. I remember one particular session where she sat there with this empty look in her eyes, almost smirking while I was laying out my terms. At the time, it hurt to see her so disconnected from the end of our marriage. Now, I see it as a blessing in disguise. It made the legal process much simpler. The affair fog, as my therapist called it, worked in my favor. While she was dreaming about her new life with her coworker, she made some really poor decisions about her future. She didn't fight for her fair share of our assets, thinking perhaps that her new relationship would provide for her. By the time she realized her mistake, the divorce was finalized. I'm not happy about her struggles. That's not who I am. But I can't deny feeling a sense of justice when I hear about her difficulties. Still, I keep those thoughts to myself and focus on being a good father to our kids. They don't need to know about adult problems, and I won't badmouth their mother, no matter what happened between us. As months passed, I found myself in a strange position, doing better than ever professionally, building a promising relationship with Rachel, and becoming closer to my kids, while watching my ex-wife struggle to rebuild her life. It's not the future either of us imagined when we said I do 12 years ago, but it's our reality now. 3 years after the divorce, I ran into Sarah, one of my ex-wife's old friends, at a local bar. She'd had a few drinks and started telling me things I never knew. Apparently, my ex-wife had invested a large chunk of her divorce settlement into her former co-worker's failing business. The business went under anyway, and he planned to move to another state. He asked her to come with him, and she agreed, which meant she was willing to leave our kids behind. But then he changed his mind and ended things with her. When Rachel heard this story, she asked if it upset me. The only part that really got to me was learning that my ex-wife had been willing to abandon our children. The money part didn't surprise me. I'd noticed she was spending way beyond her means, and this explained where all that settlement money had gone. People often ask me why I never tried to save our marriage. The truth is, I thought about it. The kids, the house, our shared life. It all mattered. But I knew things would never be the same. It's like trying to fix a broken mirror. You can put the pieces back together, but you'll always see the cracks. I couldn't get past 3 things. First, our marriage would never be pure again. Sure, we weren't high school sweethearts or anything, but there was something special about our commitment to each other, and she broke that. Second, I knew I'd never see her the same way again. The image of her as my wife, as my person, was gone forever. Third, even if I grew to love her again, it would be a different kind of love, like settling for less than what we once had. These days, my life is nothing like I imagined it would be at this age, but I'm okay with that. My career is better than ever. My company stuck by me during the rough times, and I paid them back with dedication and hard work. My relationship with Rachel has grown into something I never thought I'd find again. Most importantly, my kids are doing well. The affair is just a tiny spot in my rearview mirror now. Sure, I remember those awful days, being sick to my stomach, not sleeping, having dark thoughts I never expected to have, but I made it through. My kids kept me going when I wanted to give up. Now we're closer than ever. Recently, I heard that my ex-wife is struggling again. My first instinct was to help, like I always used to. But then I remembered that look she gave me during our final mediation, that empty stare with an almost smile, like she was enjoying watching me hurt. That memory keeps me from getting involved in her problems now. I don't take pleasure in her difficulties. It's more like a reminder that I'm in the right place in my life. Sometimes I wonder if things would be different if she'd shown remorse instead of that cold smile during our divorce. But that's not worth thinking about anymore. The biggest lesson I've learned is that good people eventually find their way. I'm not special or particularly smart. I just try to be a decent person through it all. I focused on my kids, did my job, and kept moving forward. Now, 3 years later, I have a life I never expected but definitely appreciate. To anyone going through something similar, hang in there. There's no shortcut through the pain, but there is a way forward. Focus on being good to yourself and your kids. The rest has a way of working itself out. If you're in that dark place I once was, reach out to someone. We might be in a club nobody wants to join, but at least we don't have to go through it alone. Looking back now, I realize that sometimes losing what you thought you wanted can lead you to something you actually need. My life isn't perfect, but it's real and it's mine. And that's worth more than any fantasy could ever be. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with friends or family who might enjoy it too. Your support means a lot. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or story ideas, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.